Martin Scorsese's latest film, The Irishman, is about to be released, and it's been a film long in the making. The project spent several years in development hell until it was picked up by Netflix, and the streaming giants are looking to release the film in the fall of this year. The Irishman is a film with much anticipation and hype following it, and it could very well be the biggest film of 2019. It's got some heavy competition, both on the financial side of things, in that it's highly unlikely to wrestle with the profits made by Avengers Endgame, and on the critical side of things, with Tarantino's latest film Once Upon a Time in Hollywood receiving high praise and turning heads. Still though, there are many reasons to suggest why Scorsese's latest film can be one of the biggest hits, if not the biggest hit, of 2019. Here are 8 reasons why. Number 1. It's Martin Scorsese. The man is a living legend, and he's pretty much the only director who's been consistently pumping out solid flicks since the 1970s. Every single film and documentary he has ever made is in the green zone on Metacritic, all 32 of them. That's an incredible achievement, and a testament to his master of the filmmaking craft, and a fine rebuttal for those who are skeptical of The Irishman's potential. The man just does not make bad movies. He makes different movies, he tries new things, he experiments with different methods, but the final result is always something worth watching. Number 2. The story. The Irishman is based on a best-selling non-fiction crime book called I Heard You Paint Houses. It was the result of a hitman called Frank Sheeran, who made a deathbed confession to the author, a confession which has revealed a great many things. Frank Sheeran was a World War II veteran, who was employed by a mafia boss, Russell Bufalino, to wipe out enemies. He ended up working for and befriending Teamsters union leader Jimmy Hoffa, who had close ties to the mafia. Eventually, however, Hoffa's relationship with the mob turned sour, and Sheeran claimed they ordered him to kill his close friend, which he did so, an action which weighed heavily on him in his later years, leading him to seek absolvement for his sins. The movie chronicles his life, from his return from the war all the way till his elderly years. It's a mob movie, right up Scorsese's alley, being a genre he helped define and reinvent. Even if it wasn't made by Scorsese, the story itself is very interesting and lends itself to a great film. Number 3. The cast. If I told you Martin Scorsese was making a movie with Harvey Keitel, you might say, yeah, okay, that's nice, it's been a long while since they worked together. If I told you he was pairing up with Robert De Niro, you might have a little more reason to get excited, as their collaborations are always special. If I said that not only was he making a film with De Niro, but Joe Pesci was in for a ride as well, coming out of retirement, I'd probably get a hell yeah. And if I said that Scorsese was working with Al Pacino for the first time, you might say, shut up and take my money. Behold then, a film that will, for the first time in history, star Robert De Niro, Al Pacino, Harvey Keitel, and Joe Pesci, all in the same movie. It's a titanic collection of talent, and it's a bonus that they're all known for roles in mob movies. The cast alone makes it a film worth watching, and it's thrilling imagining them all in the same film, playing off of one another. And not to mention, the supporting cast isn't half bad either, featuring the likes of Bobby Cannavale, Stephen Graham, Ray Romano, and Jesse Plemons. Number 4. Netflix. Now you might be thinking, hang on, how is the film being made by Netflix a good thing? The film won't even be in cinemas as much as it could have done if it was made by a film studio. But that's just the thing. Netflix has over 100 million subscribers. That's 100 million people who will have access to the film immediately, more or less at the same time. And they won't just have access to it, but seeing as though the film has a huge budget of almost $200 million, not to mention the pedigree of the cast and crew, Netflix are going to be advertising this film to their users like crazy. Mediocre movies like Bird Box become huge hits thanks to Netflix's marketing and advertising. So just think how much they're going to be shoving this film in the faces of their subscribers. It's a chance to show off. It's a chance to say, look, we're the guys that made this Scorsese film starring all these great actors. The Irishman being a great film is reason enough on its own, but there's also another reason Netflix are going to want to get this movie out there as much as possible, which leads me to number 5, the Oscars. As well as the fact that you have an Oscar-winning director, cast, screenwriter, editor, cinematographer, heck, even the costume designer, which suggests that the film will do well at the Academy Awards, you also have to bear in mind that Netflix are desperately chasing a Best Picture Oscar win, which will solidify their position as the legitimate film studio. They have tried in the past, and their best effort Roma was nominated for the big prize, so you can be sure they're going to go all out with The Irishman and pump up their marketing campaigns for the film. They've never had a film with this much pedigree, so will no doubt bet all their cards on Scorsese's film. Number 6. China. China is huge in terms of a movie's financial success or failure potential. The Chinese market has a massive bearing on Hollywood films, seeing as though they are the second largest film market. To such an extent, many American films are altered or adjusted to appease the Chinese market. And Scorsese, a man who was once banned in China and whose films are rarely shown in the country due to their violence, acquired a distributor to show the film in the country. STX Entertainment will handle the release, as Netflix is not available in China. Number 7. The de-aging CGI. As many know, the reason for The Irishman having such an insane budget is mainly due to digital effects being used to make the actors like De Niro and Pacino younger, so they can look like the characters they are playing, as the film goes back and forward in time through flashbacks. It's an immensely costly and risky decision, but if the risk pays off and the effects are great, then it could potentially revolutionize cinema and begin the next steps of evolution in filmmaking. Much has been said about CG characters, much has been asked about the ethicalness of it, the success of its implementation. We've had weird and real animation hybrids like in Beowulf, we've had actors made to look younger using CGI like in The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, we've had deceased actors recreated like in Star Wars Rogue One. We've even had an actor de-aged for an entire movie with Captain Marvel, but we've not had anything on the scale and ambition that The Irishman is attempting to achieve. And if it is successful, people will look at this film and say, yes, it is possible to make a film with an actor's actual age and look being no obstacle to how you want him to look. It could begin a huge wave of films where actors who are old or even dead are brought back for films. And lastly, number 8. The Irishman has the potential to be the biggest film of 2019, the film that everyone remembers from the year, a film that will go down as a classic, simply because it acts as a tribute. The Irishman is a swan song of the gangster genre. Sure, you get crime films come out every now and again, but very few on the scale of classic mob movies like Goodfellas and Casino. The Irishman is a salute to a bygone era, and not just for mafia movies, but the director and actors themselves. All of these guys, De Niro, Pacino, Pesci and Keitel, they were once insanely famous, in demand and the X-Factor actors, but now they're all old and wrinkly, and those that haven't retired are rarely in good movies. The Irishman is a chance for one last hurrah, one reunion for everyone to have one last good movie, in a genre they all amassed great fame in. And in a way the film has a meta layer to it, as the story itself concerns characters who become old and feeble, looking back on their prime. Martin Scorsese and his cast are also associated with the Hollywood New Wave, an era where creative control was in the hands of the directors, and as such, produced many magnificent pictures which are still cherished today. But many of those directors and actors are dead now, or have faded away into obscurity. The Irishman is the last major representation of the New Wave. Of course, the very nature of the film and its story is not something you see very much in today's Hollywood. The gangster genre is stale, the market is saturated with big budget blockbusters, the Hollywood New Wave is finished, these actors are all close to bowing out, and Netflix, especially if they are successful in getting an Oscar with The Irishman, and what with all their financial issues, are probably never going to greenlight a project like this ever again. It's a cliche to say this, but they really don't make films like this anymore, and we're likely never to see anything like The Irishman ever again. So even if the film doesn't live up to the immense expectations it has on its shoulders, at the very least, it will be appreciated as the closing of the curtain for all these old legends. Thanks for watching.